Here.
Councilman Phillips. Councilman Casella.
Here.
Okay, and Supervisor Thurston.
Here. Okay, everyone please rise for a pledge of allegiance to your flag, wherever it may be. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
It just stands one nation under God,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
I'm holding up the computer so I can't.
Yeah, I have mine right in front of me, so up on the wall. So anyway, thank you.
Yeah, this is hopefully. I'm happy to hear this is the last remote meeting.
Would have a motion to adopt the agenda, please?
Make a motion to adopt the agenda.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Motion to acknowledge the meeting minutes from the March 8th meeting. Have a motion?
Make a motion.
I'll second it.
Did Chris, you second it? Because the sound's not coming through. Can't hear you. I hear a bird tweeting someplace, but not.
That's my yard, Dick.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I got some birds at the meeting with me.
Still can't hear. I want to make sure. I see your mouth moving, but I don't hear you. Tom, is there anything on our end that is wrong? Because it does not show mute for Chris.
Yeah, he's not muted, so if he wants to reach out to me, maybe we can troubleshoot it.
Or call back in, because I don't want to.
Yeah, you may want to reconnect, Chris.
Yeah, that's why I paused when I read the the agenda, the attendance. I didn't hear his. If you notice,
Okay, yeah, I saw him go, move, and that he did actually, I think he did a second for one on the motion, so that's why I know. Chris,
Now unmute.
now you have to unmute, Chris.
Fine. How's that?
That's it. There you
There we
go.
go. Bingo.
Okay.
Take the better the other way. No kidding.
Second. Shut up.
Okay. Yeah, very good. So we did finish the minutes, right? Approval?
Yeah.
Playing the guitar now.
Because then I saw Chris. Okay. I'll start with my comments, tonight, and I want to say good evening and happy spring to everyone. And I start on a somewhat more somber note and just saying it's been an extremely hard throughout the pandemic, to look at police statistics around the country that show, a significant uptick in racially motivated crimes. Last week, as we all know, including through this past weekend, I just saw the evening news. There's been a lot of difficult news coming out of many cities, Atlanta, California cities, and then New York. I just saw another, event on, nationwide, television, and whether or not, what happened in, Atlanta was racially motivated. I think the investigations may never even reveal, but, like sexual harassment, what matters is the perception and the fear that such crimes imprint on people, such as the Asian community in Atlanta and elsewhere. Racism, like sexism and the various forms of discrimination, are very real and must be addressed decisively. And I know that everyone here is in agreement with that, I believe. And beyond Atlanta, in the 16 largest, cities of the United States, the crimes against Asia rose 150% in 2020. Numbers here in New York are seeing 1,000% increase. I think we had 5 more cases this weekend, and it's being done by many different people. I've seen comments, as you all have, one group or another, but it's not. It's a variety of people, and I think the factors behind it, I believe, are very, very complex, particularly since COVID has caused the disappearance of, I think, fundamental interaction in public areas. We've tried to keep it as much alive as we can in town. Of course, sports venues, gathering places, including schools and places of worship, have been closed down. So the stress factor has gotten very much higher. Our town is very culturally diverse and widely inclusive, and we're very fortunate for that. But we live and work in a society not insulated from the scourges of hate mongering, racism, misogyny, unequal justice, and much more. As government leaders, it's our responsibility to speak up and out when racially motivated or impacted events such as those around the country, are happening. I think it's more than critical than ever before. I know from discussions with our board members and others, we'll be discussing more in the months ahead. I think several initiatives that will help to continue to improve our community interaction, including tonight. We have on the agenda the what I call Community Affairs Committee. People can come up with other proposed wording if we want. Seniors, all that's oriented toward and designed to help increase the interaction, as you will see from the membership that I mentioned in there, having at least two people from each ward in all natures of race and preference. I'd like to see, of course, as we all would, each of us, have different community programs we'd like to see, so we get more and more volunteers on our relevant committees, including our Arts and Culture Committee. Unfortunately, none of this begins to compensate, for the toll that this syndrome is taking on physical and mental health of our people of Asian descent. So I hope that all of our town members can raise our collective awareness and take action against hate that exacting a high toll on members of our society and unite against the sources of this hatred. Changing to a brighter note, the town board, in trying to alleviate some of the stress and concerns of our resident, I think is proud to sponsor two forthcoming events. One is the Easter Bunny meet and greet drive-through that Recreation Department is holding. Unfortunately, due to the COVID restrictions, we're not having the very well attended in the past Easter egg hunt this year, and again this year, because last year we had to cancel. However, we are substituting an event for our young residents that on March, and old as well, on March the 27th, we'll be having on that Saturday, from the time of 11 to 12, a drive-through at Town Hall. 12 through 1, I'm sorry. 12 through 1. The drive-through.
11 to 1, sorry.
11 through 1. And the Easter Bunny will be there visiting Town Hall. That's on 20 Middlebush Road for those that may be new to the town and don't know where it is. And we'll be having this drive-through event where our visitors can pick up a bag of goodies that the Easter Bunny will be handing out to, what is it, the first 300, right, Jessica? First 300 people that drive by, and then also in that bag there will be a raffle ticket. You can show a copy of that. So it's in the form of an egg, I think.
A golden egg.
Yeah, golden egg that will be held by way of a virtual raffle, right, at 5 o'clock later that afternoon. So that's the Easter, Bunny meet and greet drive-through. And then as a reminder, we're continuing to hold, and there's weekly meetings on the Joseph Ennisser 5K run walk. And again, the board is very, very proud to sponsor this event. And it's under the leadership of Deputy Supervisor Kevin Hawthorne. Again, that's scheduled for April the 17th. Registration's at 7 a.m., Jessica, and then the kickoff, for the event is at 8 o'clock. COVID protocols are in place. For those that are nervous, maybe nervous about participating, there'll be a virtual event so that you can pick up your registration and then go out there and do it when no one else is maybe around, and then enter those times and score. There are sponsorship sponsorship opportunities, for anybody that's interested in. I believe we have a growing list of sponsors for this particular event. So please, go to our recreation page, and that you'll be able to get information on those two events. Last, but by no means least, we'll be talking tonight about opening town hall fully without appointments. And the issue, and I'll ask Councilman Beal to perhaps join in, since he's, in large part responsible for the COVID task force at the county. But there are some alarm bells right now that we may be approaching a fourth wave. And this is because we're seeing numbers, go up. There is a spike. I think, Bill, we were talking earlier, but we're at around 1,400 and a 7-day running rate of close to 5%. So it's still, very present with us. We've seen a couple more deaths. We're now up to 420, unfortunately, very regrettably, in the way of deaths. So please continue to mask up. I think this week there'll be 2,300 doses for vaccinations at the county sites. There'll be a special pop-up event in Beacon. That's by appointment only. But again, the county is increasing the dosage and the testing continues to be at a high level. We have, I think, 24% of the population that has received at least one vaccine. I've received my first one, be going for the second one later this week. And now the governor has lowered the age, so that, people, it's above 50 now, 50 and above, that are able to get the vaccination. So the county is making a lot of efforts. There appears to be more doses that are on the way. So please, turn to our website where we're putting information. But Bill, do you have anything more you'd like to add? That finishes my comments.
Yeah, just we're hoping to see the cases decrease over the last 2 to 4 weeks as we've discussed this. And we've seen just the opposite here. We went from we were averaging about 1,000 cases a week in Dutchess County, and then we saw it drop down to about 800. That went on for about a month. About 2-3 weeks ago, it jumped up to about 1,200 cases. Now we're at 1,350 on the climb right now. So we're hoping that we're not going to see a similar march that we saw last year as the numbers climbed in the springtime. But right now, I think it's kind of premature to see where this number is going, because the vaccinations are continuing at record numbers. It's just that the vaccination rate has to catch up with the positivity rate in order for us to start seeing this number get pushed back down. So we should discuss later on this evening, what direction we're going in the coming 2-week period, because I know we talked about April 1st being a time that we wanted to change the protocols, but based on the numbers we're seeing, it might be need further discussion.
I have later in the agenda, I think under new business, to talk about the possible workshop. I think it's all related as to how and when we do public. So let's have that discussion at that point in time toward the later on in the agenda.
I just would like to say I agree with Councilman Beal. There is an uptake, and there's a lot of residents that are very concerned that they still haven't gotten their vaccine. So as far as the opening on April 1st, I do believe we need to have a conversation about it. So
Yep.
Thank you.
The other thing, real quick, there are 3 different routes for residents to pursue getting a vaccine. Now that it's going to 50 and up, we're going to see even more people trying to get on the county preferred list relative to eligibility, which might be even more challenging. I think there's over 50,000 people on the waiting list right now for the county. We now have 2 state operations occurring in the close region here. There's one at the Ulster County Fairgrounds, and there's one at SUNY Orange in Orange County. So I think it would be a good idea for us to push out the different options that exist to get registered for a vaccine. I know there's been a lot of chatter on social media, people saying, well, I've been having a challenging time trying to get a vaccine at a Dutchess County location. And I spoke to Councilman Casella earlier or yesterday about this. Between the county operation, the state operation, and the pharmacies, I think that if people understand those different options that exist, it might make them feel better. So perhaps we can maybe start a social media campaign to make sure we get the information out to the public, since it's 50 and up starting tomorrow. And I'll be happy to work alongside our internet personnel to do that.
Yeah, we'll update our website and then work with Joey and and Tom to get the latest information out there. But we do have a spot in the site that enables us to do that. So
Thank you.
we'll do that and work with you, continuing as we have been, Bill.
And I want to thank Bill. Yesterday, I had a number of residents that were asking me where to get the vaccine, and Bill was able to give me about 3 or 4 different options to go ahead and do that. So I've been passing it along. So again, it's important we get the message out there and locations and everything else where people can go, because there are a lot of people asking, and they're getting in these lines and they're asking a lot of personal questions, and they're concerned about giving out information like social security numbers, et cetera. So we do have to be really careful with that. So thanks, Bill, for helping me help out a couple of my residents. Appreciate it.
Wrong.
Good. Any other comments on this, or the opening comments? Okay, well, let's move on. We now have the public portion of the meeting, and do I have a motion to open the public portion?
I'll make a motion to open the public portion.
Second.
Okay, motion and second, all in favor? Aye. Joe Paoloni,
Aye.
do you have any comments submitted?
No comments have been received at the time of closing at town hall,
Okay,
or even afterwards.
okay, thank you. So seeing no comments, do I have a motion to close the public portion, please?
So moved.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Okay, there's a motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions?
Aye.
None. Motion passed. We'll move into our discussion topics. A lot of these are continued topics and some are new. So we'll start with Steve Frazier and talking about the Porta John bid results. Steve, turn it over to you.
There we are. I'm sorry. Good evening. I sent an email out last week, and the Reliable On-Site Services, who was the company the bid was awarded to last year, they are low bid at $5,205. We have $7,000 in that line, so this came in underneath the bid. It's substantially less than the highest bid, and $300 less than the next lowest bid.
And this is a reliable group, Steve? They've done it in the past?
Yes, we've had very good service. In fact, once I found out that Robinson Lane was in need of restroom services immediately, I called them, and within 3 hours, they had Porta Johns on site for us.
Okay. And, how many of our parks right now have active Porta John facilities? And I guess Reese Park is not open, but the others do. Steve?
No, Reese Park has 1 unit assigned.
Okay, good.
I'm not sure it's there yet.
Yeah.
But we do normally have 1 unit at Reese Park.
What's
We
the
have
status
2.
of that building? That's just not open because it doesn't work, or?
Right. We haven't been able to find anyone to service that, that restroom that's there on site, that we own.
Okay.
It's I don't know, it's some kind of a biodegradable unit, and
that's
we
what
haven't
you
been able to find anyone that was willing to service it.
So do any other board members have questions on the Porta John proposal?
Just regarding the latrine at Reese Park, my understanding, Steve, was it was put in because it wouldn't require any pumping or anything like that. So I think we just need to determine how to clean it.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with it, actually. I do believe that there is some service required, and that would be by a sanitation company.
All right, we'll talk offline. I have no questions. I will go with whatever the supervisor of Buildings and Grounds recommends.
So would we have a motion on the floor to approve the award?
I'll make that motion.
5,205. It looks like you've got some there that also have handicap units too, which I think is a really good thing as well. So it looks like they're also varying. It's a week, so a number of weeks are going to be out there, Steve. So there's a 6-week to a 30-week time period.
That is our normal schedule, but we have enough room in our budget for some flexibilities for special events and such. We do, commonly make some changes through the season.
Okay. No, I'm good with it too. So Bill made a motion, I'll second it.
Well, I didn't make the motion yet, but let me just clarify. I'm gonna move, we go with reliable. Is that correct, Steve? Reliable?
Yes,
Reliable on-site services, yes.
All right, that's my motion.
and I'll second it.
From Al, okay, motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any nays, abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. I'd like to just make a brief realignment in the schedule because I noticed that Joe Felipe is here. Jessica had asked him to come and speak to us about the volleyball nets out at Mart's, and I don't want to put him through the agony of listening through all this, seeing our ugly faces. So, Jessica, why don't you introduce it, so we can have Joe present, and we appreciate it, very much, Joe. So, Jessica, go ahead. We'll just do that.
Okay, so Joe had reached out to us about a partnership for the volleyball fields or volleyball courts at Mart's Field. They have leagues that are interested in renting similarly to the way that we rent out fields and courts and things at other parks. And as part of that, our net system there could really use an upgrade. And Joe and his folks are willing to provide that to us. And I've brought him here to talk about the technical specs of volleyball nets, which he is an expert, I am not. So.
And also, Joe, briefly talk about your program and what we could expect to see out there, because we're proud we have that area and like to have better use out of it.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me on. And I apologize for being slightly unprepared. I didn't know how much information I need to bring to you tonight, but I am prepared in the sense that I'm from Downstate Juniors Volleyball, and we are a club program with 711 participants, and we actually just opened up rec programs in 4 counties with another 450 kids K through 8 playing volleyball. Volleyball and about 5 years, and so that to possibly work towards scholarships and things of that nature. We've had some success with that. We started with Putnam Valley. We had 2 new net systems there with the Lewisboro as well as Peekskill. Peekskill went a little bit defunct because it was down by the water and there was some vandalism happening and they couldn't really control some of the situation down there. We didn't want the young kids around certain things. But Katona, Lewisboro, and Putt Valley have been great. I grew up here in Wappingers. I live up here off of Knoxon Road, and I've done a lot of my coaching down in Westchester. And I'm happy to be up here now coaching high school. Our club program now also runs out of Golds besides of just down in Peekskill and in Rockland County. And we're looking to offer beach volleyball this year. I started playing volleyball back in high school out at Pie Lane on those courts.
Oh, wow.
I know the poles are the same poles when I started back in the 90s, I think, playing out there. And basically, we want to have a partnership where we rent them 2 weeknights, offer our youth programs out there that are run by coaches. Some nights they'll play games, some nights they'll train. But really, we wanted to upgrade the net systems so that they would be, better for not just the players there, but I think the community is really going to be served by putting them in. The one thing that I think was discussed just kind of briefly is that there are 3 nets there now, and I have not had the time because of the snow and the high school season started up to measure. It might only have enough room for 2 actual courts if they were done properly. So I don't know if 3 courts versus 2 courts, if we could fit 3 in there, that would be great. We would like to buy the court systems. The court systems are approximately $1,200 or so a set. They do need to be installed, and that's what the other locations did for us. They dug up, put the footings in, put the poles in. They do have adjustable heights to net, which is a nice feature too, because if you have adult leagues, women's height net and men's height net can be different. Right. And basically what we were hoping was if we paid for the systems and the town was able to put them in, then perhaps we can kind of we put the money out front and work off some of the rental agreement as well, which is, again, is what we've done with the other two towns. You know, they basically let us, you know, take the rental out of the money that we initially put in to put the new net systems in.
Steve Frazier, our supervisor for building and grounds, is on this call. He would be the person that would be implementing that installation. The board, it goes ahead. I think it's a great idea. As to the size, certainly you let us know. We can always look at even expanding it if it's short, you know, or a couple feet or what have you. I mean, I think, but what we've done with other sports leagues, sports programs, is have a basic agreement, you know, in place with the organization that spells out the mutual responsibilities. I think, you know, Jessica and I and Mr. Haran, our attorney, could work on that with you. But you know, from a general, you know, concept and you know, of going ahead, I'm certainly in favor of this. You know, I think we just need to get an agreement done, you know, ASAP, you know, to get that in place, figure out what Steve has to do if, because he has a long list of items, you know, that's there. But certainly the sports and our parks are, and we'll be talking some more tonight about that, are one of our top priorities in the town. And that complex out there is, I think, increasingly important one. So I'm in favor. I'd like to hear any comments from my other board members.
I agree.
When would you like to start the program? When would you like to start the program, Joe?
Ideally,
when would you like to start the program?
At the other locations, we are looking to start around May 12th. Obviously, if it would take longer to get the systems in the ground, we can obviously start a little later. We generally go from about the middle of May to the middle of July. If that got pushed off by 1 or 2 weeks, probably wouldn't be the end of the world by any means.
Chris, you had your comment or a question?
No, I was just gonna basically agree with what you had said. It's great to see when people are using it, and I think the upgrade would be great for the town, and it'd be great actually to see the leagues over there. So I think it's a win-win for everybody.
So I think,
if I could point something out, Joe mentioned something to me in our previous emails that I hadn't considered. And I think, this is one of the decisions we're going to need from the board here. Currently, there doesn't appear to be proper spacing between the 3 existing courts for them to be played on simultaneously safely. And that's where we're talking about, initially would need to reduce it to 2 courts and then could expand it to 3, but we would need to import additional sand in order to do that. So that was something I wanted to have discussed here tonight.
Yeah, so that's why I raised that, Steve, saying that after Joe sized it, measured it, then he can let us know what is needed, if anything, for a third, court. Then we would have a proposal that would come before the board to look at, expanding it, widening it, whatever needed to be done. So I think
right, and my intent here was maybe to get the approval for the 2 courts, just in the idea of time importance here, and getting the 2 courts up and running for the time that he's talking about wanting to use them, and then we could consider that 3rd court in a future meeting.
I guess I agree we should move, and what I would suggest is that over the next 2 weeks we work on getting an agreement done, get a proposal from Joe with respect to how we would share this going forward with respect to the fees, and then come back at the first meeting in April with a official proposal, maybe agreement, that won't be rocket science, Joe, to present to the board. So we have a relatively complete picture. And then Steve, hopefully at that meeting, then we can authorize it and get it going. In the meantime, Joe, you could be talking with Steve as to what is really needed so we could be getting things prepared, because I think, the consensus seems to be here at the board, unanimous, that it's something we should do. And then we just figure out what's needed to get it done, at least for the 2 courts. And then the 3rd one, we can, figure out what it takes.
Absolutely. I will definitely take some time. Steve, we can touch base during the week if that's okay with you. Like I said, it's been a little crazy lately because we're in the midst of a spring high school season, and we also have our club season going on. So it's been a little tough, but I definitely think that we can touch base because I know, you want to get it planned out, and I do as well. So I appreciate you, everybody supporting it, and I'll work with Steve on kind of setting that all up and get something ready for the next board meeting.
With the other communities, do you have an agreement already that's like a template, or is that?
It's a very large organization, and we have 5 directors. So our director, usually of finance, has that written up, and I actually might either ask him to join me or I'll have him write it up to present next time. Basically, what we did with the other 2 towns. So it would be a similar situation, and you would have to adjust it accordingly.
That would be helpful. And since you live up here, we certainly can meet with you, after our town hall hours as well. I mean, that's no problem. In fact, some of our board members, if they wanted to participate, would be better available at that time. So why don't we go ahead, unless the board has any other thoughts, with kind of the plan we outlined, move it so that we will have the basic, package ready for the next board meeting. In the meantime, Steve and Joe will talk, and Jessica, myself, and Joe, and then we'll have Jim, take a look at, things as well, and consult with some of the board, or all the board, as appropriate. Okay.
Okay.
Like plan?
Sounds great. Thank you very much for having me.
Okay. Thank you, Joe, very much for your interest in doing this. This is great.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay. Have a great night.
Okay. Take care. Good night. Thank you. Now, next item, is Joey there? Joey Cappuccini? Joey, you there? There you are.
Yes, I am. I'm here. Yep.
Why don't you talk to us about the neighborhood historical Hamlet signs? I know you sent out an email earlier, so why don't you summarize that for the board?
Of course. So I sent an email earlier to the board. Actually, I just gotten the sign vendor's quote today, after talking to him for about a week. And so for the public and for the board, a single-sided sign, the prices have gone up due to COVID and due to materials just going up over time. But a single-sided sign would be $2,190 each, and a double-sided sign would be $2,900 each at a time. I had sent over to the board following last meeting all of the signs that I had presented at the last meeting to get some sort of input and consensus. So basically we're here today based off of these numbers. I know they just came in today, but to kind of come up with a vision or a game plan as to what the town board would like to do moving forward. We had a number of signs and for neighborhoods and hamlets across the town from all 4 wards. And basically, I'm just here coming for a consensus as to where we should move forward for based off of these numbers.
So I welcome the comments from our councilmen and women.
So we went from $1,100 to what?
We went from $1,200 actually to $900.
Wait, say that again. We went from.
We went from
Originally it was $1,200. Last year's quote was $1,200. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it was last year's quote was $1,200. This year's quote was $2,100.
Okay. Well, based on that increase, I think we should put this on hold. I mean, they've doubled in price.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to get to the third quarter on this just to see where we're at. You know what I mean? Before we can entertain this, we still have a whole year of uncertainty at this point. I agree with the concept. I've supported this concept, and I think it's important to maintain the identities of the neighborhoods and hamlets. And I think that we have done a great job doing that. But in light of the prices doubling right now due to probably because of supply issues, like you said, and COVID, I think we should just hold off and see if things stabilize, and we can be in a better position to entertain this, third quarter.
I can also seek other vendors as well. This is our typical sign vendor, and we do have $6,000 budgeted in the Greenway sign line for this year. But I will take the lead of the board.
Yeah, I
I
just want
agree
to
with Councilman Beal that this should maybe be put off to the third quarter at this time.
Yeah, I just want to maximize, Joey. You know, I know that there's 6,000 budget. I get that, but that now could be a matter of, you know, 2 signs versus 4 signs, right? So if you could get other prices in the meantime, that would be helpful. But I just don't think we're in a position to spend that money, spend that money right now.
I agree with you.
And I would just also mention to Councilman.
I agree too. How many signs, Joe, are you looking to get in total?
Oh, well, that was up to the board. I had presented a number of signs to the board, and I was hoping to get a response as to which ones you guys had wanted to go off of. And so that's entirely up to the board. That's just per sign. And again, we're also getting a quality from this vendor as well. The signs in the past were flimsy. They also deteriorated. They were from different vendors. This sign vendor has presented a good quality to us. They're highway quality signs, metal poles, they're PVC welded pipe signs, and they're good quality. So I just want to put that out there as well, but we can also go out for other vendors as well.
Any kind of volume discount if you get X number of signs too? Does the price come down at all, or is it?
I could speak.
$21.90 for single side, and then $2,900 for double. Sorry, Joey. What?
I could speak to our vendor about that. He did not express any discount when I had sent him all of the signs, but I can speak to him about that as well. And I have no problem.
Yeah, I agree with Bill.
Oh, no. Continue, Councilman.
Thank you. No, I agree with Bill and Angela. I think we need to take a reset on this one for a little bit. Prices, again, almost doubling on the single-sided. So I'd rather be prudent. If we can do this in the third quarter, again, we'll have a lot of our revenue in already. We'll see how things are progressing. Maybe a little more Parkland Trust fund money to come in as well, because this is what it's going to be paid out of. Anything above 6,000, correct? Probably.
I don't know. I don't know which line the town board would choose. Most likely, town board contingency has been the historical option.
Hey, anyway, we look at it. We're going to have to figure out whether we want to spend, above the 6,000. So I agree. Let's wait a little while and see how things are, down the road. It's not an urgency now, right?
No. Oh, no.
Okay.
Just was something that we were presenting to the board to get your opinion, and moving forward. So we'll move forward on getting some other quotes.
So we'll come back to it, in the third quarter and, move that way. Joey, you can do some work in the meantime and keep us.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you. And thanks for your hard work and working on this. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next we'll turn to, Mike Sheehan. Mike's on the phone here, and Mike, turn it over. We'll discuss both your proposal for trucks as well as paving. So the floor is yours, Mike.
Okay, so we'll talk about the trucks. The past highway superintendent asked in 2019, I asked in 2020, and I'm back 2021. You guys all got emails on the paperwork, the prices of them, the specs on all of them. So what do you think? Am I still here?
Yeah, Mike. So
you're still there. So
I don't know if anybody.
Mike, by way of background, what is the, just refresh the board and also the public that's listing the conditions of the vehicles that are to be replaced by these proposed plowed trucks and.
We managed, the mechanics managed to scrape together. They took parts, sanders off an older truck to put on a newer one, and that's how we scraped by this year. But it's not going to be, I don't think it happened next, this year coming. So, like I said, we managed to get one truck out of the ones that, out of the 3, we got one. And that's an older truck. Like I said, they took a sander off the old one, put all new hoses, all new fittings. They changed the springs, the air canisters, everything to make it run and pull us through this winter that we just had.
Hey, Mike, how much more efficient are you plowing with the wings?
It's 100%, Chris. We had 4 wing trucks. We have none now. And, you know, it was pretty scary going through that last storm. Knowing that I didn't have the equipment to push back, I would have to go to East Fishkill or Fishkill for their help for that. It cut the plowing in half.
Thank you.
For those, you know, for those
So Mike, this is the,
trucks.
so Mike, you're looking for, you know, 2 plow trucks are roughly 237K a pop. And then you're looking
Yes,
for another plow truck for
a 4-wheel
roughly
drive.
254K.
Yep, that's what we're losing this year. We're
Yep,
gonna lose the
4-wheel
four-wheel
drive.
drive. And like I said, we had 4 wings. We have absolutely none now. So the two-wheel drive trucks would come with a wing for 236 and change, and a 4-wheel drive would come with a wing for 254.
Now, Mike, with the wings, can you use your current manpower numbers, or do you have to hire somebody else to control the wing?
Dick, we probably have to hire somebody to come in, but usually we can do it after the storm, and then I could just double the guys up and they could go out and do it. Like, you know, we did in the past.
Okay.
So we're looking at about 750K. I'm sorry, Bill. We're looking for 750K here in total for everything that you need as far as trucks go.
Yes.
Close to it. Okay.
All right, gentlemen.
Sorry, Bill.
Now's the time. We have bond rates of 1.5 to 2% right now that are going to start going up probably in the next 3 months. I said this 6 months or a year ago. It wasn't the time. Now is the time. We have to move on this to capitalize on free money.
Agreed.
So how do you guys want to proceed?
I think what we do is we go to bond resolution together next time out for the next meeting, and you go ahead and bond for the trucks that Mike needs.
I think, you know, we'll probably have 2, you know, we'll see where the paving numbers come out, but I think, I agree, Al. And then Jim and I can be talking with Doug, a good friend, and also Unistat, you know, about getting, you know, the paperwork, everything in place, and looking at where, you know, we might be placing this. But I think we do the legwork with the idea of next meeting, we'll have the resolutions presented to the board.
And
for the public meeting too, I assume.
And to the highway superintendent, I understand it was a rough time scraping by this particular winter. I know we had a rough winter. I greatly appreciate you guys pinching pennies over the last 6 months through this winter, and I hope that we're not going to see snow again, right?
Yeah, I hope so, though.
It was very important, Mike. I know it sounded somewhat insensitive, our response last time you came to us, but we're in a pandemic, a lot of uncertainties relative to finances. We are now, in my opinion, in a better position to make this decision. We have low bond rates, and we made it through the winter. I feel a heck of a lot more comfortable now moving forward on this capital purchase of, you know, $750,000 now than I did during the last presentation. So I will fully support this purchase, and it's my hopes that we can again, I'm sure Doug Goodfriend and our Unistat partners will get us a good rate on this, and I think we're making the right decision.
Yeah, I agree, Bill. And I'd like, once again, Mike, to make sure that your mechanics know how appreciative we are of the outstanding work they've been doing, keeping the current fleet, you know, alive, making these changes to get us through the winter in good stead, and a very good safety, you know, record. So
Yes.
please thank them on behalf of the board. Thank them.
Will do. I will do.
Okay,
Will do.
so
Here's a question for Jim Haran. And what's the bonding number of years we can bond for trucks? And then of course we're going to go to paving next. Is it a 20-year asset life for the truck, and then?
Let me look it up in the local finance law. It's either.
That's just good to know. I mean, it's 2%,
I think
but
it's
we can
10
do
or
a quick
15.
calculation here, see what's going to
15
cost us per year.
Al, I think it's 15 for.
10 or 15. I have
Okay.
I'll
You know,
let you know.
we'll have that for the next
Thank
meeting, too, but we'll let you know. Yeah.
I think it's 20 on the roads and 15 on the vehicles.
It's good to know. When we
Yeah,
do
great,
the
Bill.
calculation for the, you know, what's going to cost us for the bond. So
And Mike, as we've discussed before, you know, please put together, you know, the list for the rest of the useful life of your vehicle, so we, you know, start this long-term capital.
Yes,
plan.
I think that was given out also. I think
Oh, okay.
I talked to I think that was handed out too for the
Okay,
next
I
4
don't have
years.
it in front of me, but Al and I and Frederick are working on looking at that with Munistat.
I'll get
Yeah, so,
Frederick's got it. I'm
Mike, if
pretty
you wouldn't
sure he's
mind
got
just
it.
sending that out as a refresher for us, that would be great.
Okay, we'll do.
Yeah, I would like
Will
to have a
do.
copy of that also. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you, Mike.
I'll come out tomorrow.
Thank you.
Mike, go ahead on the paving proposal.
All right, you all have the paving in front of you also?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, I'm going with the county bid again, which I'm going with Clove Excavating.
Can I, wait,
You
can
got the price?
can I ask a question, please?
Sure.
Yes.
You've already made a decision to go with Clove where was
Yes.
it sent out?
Yes, I'm very happy with their work, and my men work fine with it.
Mike, let me finish my question, please, for a second.
Okay.
When were the bids sent out? When were the people notified to put their bids in?
We didn't have to go to bid. I go with the county. All the paving crews go with the county. I'm going with Clove. So it's a county bid.
So Clove was the only
No,
person?
just like last year, Angela, I went with the Clove from the county bid.
So nobody else was up for consideration?
No.
Well, I mean, there's a number of vendors on the county bid list
Yes,
beyond Clove.
yes,
Okay.
there is, Jen.
And he, and Mike selected Clove, so.
Can I ask why you selected Clove? Based
Because
on
I
other people that are there?
what's that?
Can you explain why you decided on Clove based on
They
the
have
other
good work.
vendors that are there?
Yeah, I like their workmanship. They're very good at what they do. They've been doing it for over 50 years.
Well, how long
Um,
have they been doing it for the town, though? Two,
They
right?
they've done it in the past probably for 15 years. When Graham was here, they've done it. And then the last superintendent, he got Ovello to come in.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm going with Clove.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Now,
very
if you look
happy
at
with
the-
their work. They do great work.
If you look at the price per ton and all that, I know that Clove does the paving and the milling, but if you look at the price per ton, you're getting $63 a ton. Does that sound pretty reasonable? If you
as of
back
right
like,
now-
Joe Kahn or somebody?
Tilcon, they're going to
Sorry.
be the same
Go ahead,
price. I've been Tilcon and Thale. Tilcon hasn't reached out to me yet, but Thale's reached out to me. They gave me the price of $63, but the price will start going up monthly now because of the index, because of the COVID, the fuels, and all that stuff. So it's going to start going up now. So like I said, we have it at 63 right now, and I don't know what it could be in a few months. Might go up to 65. I'm not sure. Did I lose you?
No, we hear you.
Mike, is your price based on the day of delivery or no?
The price will be, yes, Chris, but as of right now, I mean, we're not paving now, and that's the price for now. So,
Yeah, no.
again, I can get an update. I'll get an update the end of April 1st. The plant's open, so I'll get a price then, and I'll email each and every one of you the price of what it's going to be. But he told me it's going to be changing monthly.
Yeah, as oil goes up, so does blacktop.
So then,
So does the price of the asphalt, exactly.
so what's the estimate right now for the total price, Mike, at this point with the current numbers?
Million, 2001, 547. That's what I got. And is that what you guys got?
Yeah,
1,201,547. Is that what you guys have or no?
yeah, that's what we have.
Yeah, I just, for the public record, just wanted you to
Yes.
note it. And how many roads are you looking at? That's the list, but it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What about
13, is it?
15, somewhere around there?
Yeah.
And I noticed that you added when we were discussing it, Old Troy, and I assume that's one section of it. That's that worst section, toward the
Yes.
north end, right?
Yeah, we're going to do the whole road.
Oh, the whole road. Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, we're going to it's going to be milled, and we're going to put down a binder, and then we're going to top it.
So Tim Moot, I don't know if he's on here now, but he had told me that you and he had looked at this. There you are, Tim, and that the foundation, what was okay, right? Assuming we did that this year, that we could get by without doing any other major construction there.
Well, so what we proposed on originally was sort of a master plan for the road that was including retaining walls, a walkway, and all that. And, we were at like $1 million for all those considerations. So I believe Tom Harvey did a final walkthrough with Mike, and they decided, let's just, for the cost efficiency, pave the whole road. And like Mike's saying, you're going to include the binder and all that in there. So the road isn't in like a failing, terrible condition.
That's what I wanted to make sure. And we don't have to do anything yet to the hill or the riverside. If we pave the road, that will make sure it's stable, correct?
And Mike, that's stable for now. Mike, is there drainage in there?
Yes.
Because it probably is going to need.
Yeah,
some
we
drainage.
got several cross pipes, Tim. When we've seen them when we walked it. Yeah. There's several. The only issue I'm going to have to get with just the power authority. They're doing something down by New Hamburg Road. They are clearing the power lines, and they're putting ruts, and the water's coming off the power lines and going onto Old Troy Road at the very bottom.
Okay.
So I'm going to have to address that with them.
Well, if you need the representative, then we can put you in touch with that if you don't have someone to contact. But they've been very cooperative on things generally.
Yes, they are. Yep, they are.
Okay.
Hey, Mike, can you solve a lot of those problems with like heavy grading?
The grading is going to have to be done at the bottom. I don't know if that's going to be us or the power authority. Other than that, it's pretty good. The road's in pretty good shape. I mean, not pretty good shape, but it's all right to pave it. Okay. We got brand new plastic pipes underneath it for crossovers, and they seem to be doing the job, Chris.
Okay. So Jim Horan, this would also be something that we would need to bond, but the bonding, because of the useful life, would be a different bond, but we can still address them both at the same time. But we would need a bond for the trucks and a bond issued for the paving, right up to whatever our reimbursement amount was, not including that from the state, correct, Jim?
Well, I mean, so typically what I would suggest is we adopt a bond. Well, the other question is, does the board want a bond for just this year, or to look at 2 years of paving work? That's one question. The other issue is, typically I would, suggest that you do the bonding. You can do it, net the CHIPS money, or you can do it, with the safest bet is to do it, not taking the CHIPS money into account. And if for something that happens at the state level and you don't get CHIPS money, then you have the financing available. Again, a bond resolution is the maximum amount you can borrow. You never have to borrow the full amount of the resolution. It's a cap. So.
Yeah. So since state funding's not clear, it's uncertain at this point in time, I'd say we bond for the maximum amount. My personal feeling, getting back to what Councilman Beal mentioned, money's not going to be cheaper next year than it is now.
So I mean, that's the other question, if you want to do, 2 years of paving in the one bond. So that's the other.
Well, to Councilman Beal's point, it would make sense at these low rates to bond for 2 years. Then I have another question. With the flux of the price of asphalt, would it make sense to figure the tonnage at $68 a ton as a fail-safe and not include the CHIPS money? And as you said, you only pay on what you draw.
Yeah, so I just pulled up the county contracts, and the current contract that Dutchess County has up on its website for Tilcon, the last so I don't know, there may be a new contract coming out, because the contract that's up on their website was good April 19, 2019 with 2 one-year renewals. So it looks like they will have a new contract coming out. And, you know, the range for Tilcon was, you know, between, you know, different types, but, you know, between 62 and 66. That's, you know, that's a number for 2019. So, you know, if you're looking at a higher number, I think that would be a safe bet because, you know, right now I don't see a current contract that's out yet. I know in the past that I believe Tilcon has given us a discount off the county rate. But you know, we can see. I don't know if Mike's talked to the county as far as when they anticipate.
You know what, Jim? I'll look at it tomorrow, and if I got the update from the county bids, I'll ship it over to you.
Yeah, sure. So, you know, I know.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, usually they come out around the time the plan opens. So.
Yeah.
But you know,
and they are going to open April 1st.
Yeah, and historically, you know, the easiest thing to do is to use the county bids because, you know, when in the past when we've gone out to bid on the town alone, we typically came in with numbers that were higher than the county bid numbers.
Right.
So,
yeah.
And you know, and then you know, there's a lot of contracts out there also for drainage pipe and you know, item 4 and
yep.
So you know, they've got you know, there's a whole bunch of things that are on the county bid. So.
Yep.
So we'll go ahead and prepare, Mike. We'll prepare.
Okay.
For the next board meeting. You know, in the meantime, you know, Jim and I, you know, and Frederick, will talk with Doug Goodfriend and also Munistat, you know, to get all the necessary information to present to the board, you know, for the next board meeting in April.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
What was the total cost on this one for this year, paving?
I do agree that we should, I do agree we should go out there and, sorry.
It was at 1,201,000.
1.2 500.
Yeah.
547.
Yeah.
1.2. Okay.
No, it's
Yep.
1,201,000.
Yep. Right. So,
Yeah, 1.2. So why
work
wouldn't we, as you know, Jim and others, and I think it suggested go 2 years at 2%. You don't have to borrow against it. Mike, how many miles are you paving this year? Is it 6, 7 miles if you get to 1.2 million?
Yeah, 6.55 or something like that.
Well, like, I think, you know,
okay.
we can proudly say that our road system and the paving is one of the best around. You look at some of the surrounding areas, you know, that are way behind in paving. You know, they're extremely far behind. So I have no problem keeping with kind of this schedule, and we're, you know, getting caught up. I think there's still roads. I know Joe Paoloni, you know, talks about, you know, getting his paved, you know, so we'll look at that.
Yeah,
sure.
We'll talk to Joe.
So looking at the local finance load, looks like the probable useful life for the paving and for the trucks is both 15 years.
Oh, both 15? Okay. Okay. So, you know, we'll move ahead with that plan. Okay, everyone? Okay. Thank you. You know, thanks. And then anybody
Thank you, guys.
let Mike know.
Thank you, Michael.
So we agree we're going to
You all have a good night.
Sorry, Al, go ahead.
Did we agree we're going to go with the 2-year plan?
Well, that's what
Did we
our
agree we're going with the 2-year plan for paving or 1 year?
Well, we're talking about 2 years. You know, we'll see what they propose, but I think right now, in light of where interest rates are likely to be next year, that probably makes the most sense.
Yeah, what's interesting is the term, Jim mentioned the term is the same for the trucks and the paving, which I thought I thought you could get 20 years on the paving, but that also gives you additional options, right, Jim? You can potentially get one bond for all the assets and the paving. Is that correct?
Theoretically, if you wanted to, you know, if they've got the same probable useful life. You know, the other issue, and this is something the board, you know, should think about with respect to the federal money that's coming down. I know it could probably be used, I believe it could be used for paving, road infrastructure work. I'm not sure if it could be used for purchase of trucks. So, that might be, I'll talk to Doug Goodfriend about that. If they both have a 15-year useful life, if you put them both in the same bond resolution, then theoretically you could split that up, any way you wish. So that's the only issue too, with respect to, if one of the options the board should look at. My understanding, based on the conversation with Mike, was that was for the purchase of 2 vehicles?
3.
3 vehicles.
Great.
Okay,
Yep, 2 two-wheel drives and 1 4-wheel drive.
okay. So
Yeah.
three for $750.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
and- Yes, and relative to the federal stimulus money, I think that's another conversation we need to have, a separate and distinct from our regular operations.
Right.
I would agree that they should be shovel-ready projects, capital infrastructure, things like that. But I think that should be a separate conversation. I don't want to use the federal stimulus money for regular operations like this.
Right.
I agree.
Yeah, and that was part of the plan we'll talk about later for a workshop. But also further to that, there looks like there could be, another $3 to $7 trillion for highway infrastructure and some other infrastructure. The Buttigieg is pushing for a huge money, to redo all the, highway systems all the way down to the county level. So we'll see where that goes in the months ahead. But that looks like something's going to come out that's beyond what is the current relief funding. So, but my thought was during our workshop, Councilman Beal, that we would discuss, these items.
Thank you.
Okay.
One point a correction I want to make is I never asked for my road to be paved. What I pointed out, the road has never been paved by the town board. It was paved by the developer in 1990 and has never, and that it should be looked at. That should be one of the roads to be looked at. But certainly there are other roads that need paving probably ahead of it, even because it's not a highly trafficked road. And
Lost you, Joe.
I lost you, Joe.
That's a great place to leave off, Joe.
That's perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. Can't take a joke. But okay.
Good point.
All right.
road.
You're frozen.
All right. You all have a good night, okay?
See you, Mike.
Thank you, Michael.
Hey, Mike, thanks.
Okay, have a good night.
Good. Yep.
Thanks, Mike.
I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, talk to you soon.
Hey, Aloni, you're still
Bye-bye.
frozen, so that's all we got from you.
Thanks, Mike.
Probably a conspiracy.
So moving on, last time I had shared with you a draft, for discussion purposes of the 2 charters, one for what I call the Community Affairs Advisory Committee, and the other for a Senior Affairs Advisory Committee. You should have those, and so tonight would be the first meeting, hopefully the first of 2. If it goes more than we need to consider that, but certainly any discussions that people might have on that rough draft. You'll recall that the what I'm calling Community Affairs Advisory Committee is designed to replace and then also go beyond the old Recreation Committee that became defunct largely because we lost a lot of the membership through resignation and also other unfortunate events. So this is presented back to you for discussion. Any discussion that you'd like to have. I do not have a resolution proposed for tonight for either one. The Seniors Affairs Advisory Committee is also at the, I think, the request of seniors as well as in my judgment, and that this would also help us to better engage from a more of a community point of view. This doesn't have to do per se with the day-to-day recreation activities, but certainly looking at other ways that we can help the senior community, which is of course growing number as our town ages. So any discussion that anybody has on this, again, whatever you have, then we'll take it into consideration and refine the proposals.
So I had a question, just to clarify, that 501c3 that we had created a couple years ago for the senior center, that would be separate and distinct from this?
Correct. Yeah, that was, remember, the kind of the fundraising vehicle for those activities that we could not fund ourselves, you know, for the seniors. So that was separate, above and beyond.
So this particular, this would be an advisory committee that reports to the town board, or how does that work?
Well, it reports, you know, to, it's, well, I'll just read it. Senior Advisory Committee is established as a committee of the town board. It's to provide advice and recommendations to the board on the issues related to the physical, emotional, social well-being of seniors in our town. And then, you know, also included in, you know, the board, you know, on the membership of this, there's a list which would include the town's recreation director, director of senior affairs, which are one and the same at this point in time. Each of the 4 town wards would be entitled to 2 residents, and then there are some other, you know, membership proposals in that.
Okay.
How are we with the senior programs now?
I'll let Jessica respond to that.
Sure. So we, in the next 2 weeks, are going to be kicking back off all of our outdoor programs. We also started a couple of virtual programs, and as soon, well, like bingo, we're doing a book club, we have game day. You know, seniors with the technology, some of them are really on board for it, and some are not. But the outdoor activities are massive interest right now. The walking club, bocce, shuffleboard, things like that. Some of the outdoor picnics that we're going to be having. And then, of course, once town hall does eventually reopen, we'll be able to do some smaller scale indoor events. And I had actually talked to Jim, and I know this isn't something that we want to get into right now, but doing somewhat of soft reopenings based on vaccination status and whether we are actually allowed to do something like that with that kind of restriction. But that's one that is a question for Jim in another day.
Thank you.
Anybody has any other comments, and please let me know, and then I'll put it on the table for next time around. So if we have any other discussion, but please get back to me, you know, with anything on either of the 2 committees.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Very good.
Okay.
Thank you.
The next item is one that Sarah and I, Bill Beal, have worked on. It's approval of the Town of Wappinger Public Health Emergency Plan. This is the discussion right now. We have a resolution later on. But, you know, Bill, let you just give a high-level summary because it emanates out of requirements that are being imposed by higher government, and Bill's been working and coordinating on that, and then Sarah can add in with some other comments. For Bill, just introduce it to our board and our residents.
So New York State executive law was amended to require municipalities to adopt what they call a pandemic operations plan by April 1st of this year, for the purposes of basically reiterating the ability for local governments to continue operations from a continuity of operations perspective. So this particular plan that was put together by Sarah speaks to each one of the requirements that are laid out in the executive law amendment, requiring basically assigning tasks for each entity within the local government. For us in the town of Wappinger, we've been doing all this since day one. I mean, I'll be honest with you, some municipalities didn't know where to start and kind of got lost in the mud on the COVID situation. We have
still lost in the mud, Bill. My bad.
we have in this town somehow been able to navigate this and remain open for the most part. We've continued our meetings. We've figured out a way to make Zoom work. We've kind of blazed the trail, really, in my opinion. And as a result of that, we were kind of ahead of the game on this plan. Sarah basically put everything together and assigned the essential functions as necessary under the statute, and we have ourselves a document that, by the way, doesn't need to be submitted to anyone. All we have to do is adopt this to meet the statute requirement, and here we are. Sarah, do you want to expand upon that?
I couldn't say it better myself, so thank you. So I don't really have much to add, but yes, we're required to adopt it by April 1st and keep it on file. And really, it's a public health emergency plan, and our plan is in compliance with state guidelines. And it's just kind of a plan so that we're ready and prepared to continue operations to best serve the public in the event of another pandemic. It's kind of just basically a manual. So
yeah, it covers the basics, and also we do have a provision in there that in the event that there should be some other executive order, that would override, let's say, CDC or other guidelines, then the board would have that flexibility based on whatever other mandates may come out. So it's I think the right way to go to get us done. I think it will form a very important element of what is yet to come as to a broader, emergency, approach in the town that Councilman Beal is working on, and that ranges from emergency response to a fire prevention, bureau, and a variety of things that we are looking at, upgrading. So this is a good foundation for that continued improvement in the safety and protection of our community. So, Bill, go ahead.
The only thing I would say, Sarah, just on page 6 for under ambulance, if we can just add a word, responsible for treatment and transportation rather than just transportation. The reason why I want to put treatment in there is because these folks have been on the front line providing treatment, and some of these patients don't get transported. So if we could just add treatment, responsible for treatment and transportation of patients to medical facilities, that would be more inclusive based on what I've been seeing out there in the field. And these folks are still out on the front lines. I understand that we have vaccinations going on, but I can't tell you the number of calls, the number of emergencies in this town on a daily basis where individuals have COVID exposure in one way, shape, or form, and our paramedics and EMTs have to go into these households and expose themselves for the greater good. So just if we can include that. Otherwise, I'm happy with the plan. Everything is consistent with the requirements. The other thing that may happen with this plan moving forward, as additional grant funding becomes available from the Fed, maybe through the state, sometimes they attach deliverables to that grant funding that you have to have the plan adopted, duly adopted in order to qualify for that funding. So it's good that we're meeting the deadline. It's a fiscal deadline because the state of New York's fiscal year starts April 1st. So that's why it's important that we adopt this tonight. And the only thing I would ask for is just that minor word change and adjustment, and I'm good to go.
And we'll have the resolution during the resolution sections, but thank you, Councilman. Any other comments, questions? Okay, thanks. And we'll come back. If you do think of something, we'll have it during the resolution portion. The next item is kind of a general catch-all I put in there relating to town park improvements. We have some specific items and then also left it for some general discussion on, you'll recall, as we were looking at different playground improvements, we put in Quiet Acres, we put in Rockingham, we're doing the upgrades. So started it at Spook Hill, but I know some of the other, the other councilmen and women, have indicated interest in other, parks, particularly in some of the other wards, to do some upgrades. So we'll have that discussion, but I'll start it off with, Jessica, and then Steve, can join in with respect to the Marks Field lighting issue. Jessica, why don't you introduce it, then Steve can comment. Don't hear you.
My internet's being a little weird, so please let me know if I drop out right in the middle of this. So we have been for a very long time reliant on outside facilities for a lot of our program. And something that COVID has really inspired and made us get creative with is how we can run our programs when the school district's facilities are no longer available to us. That is something that happened over the past year. And what it's really done is made us think about moving to our own outdoor facilities. We don't really have any indoor facilities, but really making a better use of our outdoor facilities. And one of the best ones for the programs that we do run, both for young adults, children, and even the seniors, is Martz Field. It has a wonderful pavilion out there. It has so many multifunctional courts and things. So along with the volleyball nets improvement, what we're looking at, and Steve will be able to give you again a little bit more of the technical specs on it, is increasing the lighting out at Martz so that we can begin to hold programs later into the day and into the evening under the pavilion at Martz. It can actually get somewhat dark under there even in the midday because it is a large shaded structure near to the tree line. So basically the reason that we want to do this is we'd like to move our outdoor aerobics class that was held indoors at the school outdoors. Right now we're doing it, but we have to do everything at a little bit of an odd time to compete with sunset. We can move some of our senior activities outdoors, some of them low light even during the day. It would be a site issue for some of the seniors. So it's something that we really need. This is kind of a phase one approach to it. Steve and I had also talked a little more long-term about the replacement of lighting on some of the courts that are out there. But for tonight, we're just talking about the general Martz area in the pavilion. All right, Steve, you're up.
So if we're going to be holding events at Martz after daylight hours, we would need lighting under the pavilion. I would need to put in some area lighting between the pavilion and the restrooms, and then along the walkway out to the parking area and light the parking area as well. I did some preliminary figuring on the requirements for the pavilion itself. I have an idea on what would be needed for the remainder as far as the materials and such that would be needed, but I haven't had an opportunity to put a price on that for you yet. It is work that we could do in-house. I think I may need to speak with the engineering company on that for some of the parking lot structures, but it is within the realm of what we can do. But, you know, we'd have to figure out where it would fall in the schedule of things that we've already been looking at.
So are the volleyball, nets, that beach volleyball area well lighted, Jessica? Is that suitable?
No. And that would be kind of the second round.
Yeah, okay.
The courts, which would include down the line, basketball, the tennis courts, and the volleyball courts. You know, right now, the widest purpose, believe it or not, is that pavilion.
Sure, I understand.
Yes, because that would have so many different things that we could do, and even new things that we could add in based on having a well-lit outdoor space.
Can you and Steve put together a proposal, phase one, phase two, or if there's also a phase three, for us to consider, particularly as we're looking at also, as we mentioned earlier, whether it's additional monies from the COVID relief, which also does go to some of the COVID related activities, such as this, or we look at recreation fees. But I think, again, back to capital improvements and other things, it would be good if we had a clearer picture of the phases. I don't disagree with your proposal that this would be the right place to start, but also I know we get a number of us, requests for lighting on the pickleball, for pickleball and, the tennis, right? So I'd like to see us address that if we could put together a phased approach. And then Steve, of course, the resources and whether or not that's something you can do with your list of 75 other items or something we need to contract out for or what, right? So we can at least look at it because you do have a growing list.
Yeah, and that's why I said, we'd have to figure out where that would fall in the schedule of everything else that we've got going on.
But I think right now, you Steve and Jessica, you're talking about a relatively quick, trying to get in lighting for the pavilion in that area for this season, correct?
Yeah, definitely under the pavilion for, if I were to put it in order, it would be under the pavilion first because we do need supplementary light there even in the day sometimes. Then you start working, outwards to the lighting the pathway, lighting the parking lot.
And that would actually be the easiest portion of what I mentioned, because we have all the electricity and everything needed in place already.
Okay.
So this
But I'm not sure that we, holding these events after dark without doing the remaining area lighting, I think might put us at risk.
Understood. So that's why I'd like to see what is the complete picture. I think I saw Al, nodding his head. I think everybody's in agreement. We need to see the fuller picture as well. Al, do you want to comment?
Yeah, so I think it's a good idea to have a phased-in approach. And Steve, what I'd like to see from you is if we're going to do the pavilion area, maybe look at the pickleball courts and see, is that something that can be grouped together? So I know there's a number of different phases that Jessica was talking about, but I think it's important to, see what we can kind of combine. And what I'd like to know is how much can you do in-house versus potentially vendoring out or, sending it to a sub to go ahead and do that, because I think that would also, be something we need as far as costs and everything else goes. I'm assuming none of this is probably in your budget today, so this would be something that, would come out of, a fund or park land trust. But let's get the cost together first. Let's see what it looks like from, as Dick said, a phased-in approach and see where we go from here.
And we have existing light towers over, the basketball. Do we have it over in tennis?
Right. That may be somewhat easy to, easy, but it may not be as complicated to get those back online as it would be from scratch. I'd have to look at what condition they're in and if they're serviceable. I would recommend that they be converted to LED light heads up on top. And then we could do that job with the new lift.
But yeah, I think we need to make sure we understand with respect to LED, what we're talking about. Keep in mind, we have a number of residents close by. I don't want to have suddenly the moon shining 24/7 full lumens at our neighbors, right? So we need
and that's certainly something we need to look into. We can, I've already looked into time. I've already looked into time switching so that we can regulate when they can and can't be actually turned on. So, there would be a termination period where there would be no power available until the following night.
And I had talked with Central Hudson, our reps before earlier retirement, but Brian's there, and they thought that actually there is some program that could help us through Central Hudson, for some level of funding or free, fixtures or what have you. So, make sure we include that in, the plan of looking at those current structures and what is needed, right? And if you need some help from, Tim Moot or his folks, or, he could, get somebody to take a look at that as well. Okay?
Yeah, I think, that was part of the thing I entered with my introduction here is that I would like to be able to work with CPL so we can put a plan on paper. And then we can compare, we can put it out to bid and compare what that cost is versus what it would be for us to do it in-house.
Yeah, and similarly, I mean, we have a couple of the fields, and I think we'd all like to get a better understanding of what needs to be done. We have, and I'll ask you to segue into it, is Mart's Memorial and also Robinson Lane, since, so we can be talking about those as well. And of course, Robinson, there's several elements that we want to look at, but particularly related to also the lighting, right? We've discussed that in the cost 50,000 or more a year, that is charging us for electrical at that lighting out there in the field. So those are items. So let's for March, let's get together the phased approach and
Thank you, sir.
Do we know last time those lights worked, Steve, over at Martsfield?
I don't know the last time they were turned on. I know a number of them have been knocked out with rocks. So I can't, I'd have to even look to see if the electric is still functioning for them.
I heard a roundabout of 10 years, and that's only just because I have somebody that lives right there. So
So
we
the
may
tennis
we may
courts
need a lot
has
more work
lighting.
than we think. I'm sorry, Chris.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
We may need a little more work than I think we need. If some of these lights haven't been used in 10 years, it's probably not going to just be putting an LED light there. It's going to be a lot more intensive. So again, Dick said, let's get the phased-in approach, get the costs, et cetera. And Chris, I apologize.
No, so we know there's there was lighting at the tennis courts. What about the basketball? And there's some sort of lighting over by the volleyball. I mean, you drive through there in the summer, and whether it's I don't know where the lighting is coming from.
like parking lot style lights.
Okay.
As opposed
At the volleyball court, there's one, just a single, they call it like a security light. It's one of those area lights that Central Hudson provides.
Okay.
And it's really not enough light for them to play by.
Okay.
And
They do, but it's not the right kind of.
And while we're talking about it, remember, Al, you and I had looked at that big pole over at Rockingham across from the pond. That's something that, again, we should look at least as, for helping to keep it safer environment as people walking there, but cars going out at night, right?
And we did have a Central Hudson number on the pole, so I don't know if it's still got current in it or not over there. But
I think Steve said
it does not.
Okay, because we saw when Dick and I were out, the light flashed on. So it was kind of interesting.
Yeah, it flashed
no power, but the light flashed on.
Yeah.
Right. The light is independent of that panel that's on the pole.
Okay. Well, we should take a look at that as well, because I know we've gotten some inquiries, with respect to that. So, anyway,
and, Chris, you mentioned the basketball court. There are fixtures there. They are not in working condition, and I'm not sure what it would take to get them back to working condition. I'd have to look into that.
Okay.
Okay, well, let's look at that and then put it together with a priority being phase one. But I think the board, needs to, wants to. I mean, they've expressed the interest to see 2 and 3, whatever the phases would be. Okay, Steve?
Sure.
Thanks.
This is great. This was just kind of our introduction to it. See how everybody was.
Good. It's excellent. Especially going forward. I think it's great to have. Steve, Martsfield Memorial. You wanted to get some input from the board and share your thoughts on that.
Actually, that is, we kind of know what we need to do there.
Okay.
And have just been waiting for the conditions to improve to do it. And we're pretty close to doing that. We have a project underway at, kind of surprised me there. We have a project underway at Highway Department. And when we complete that, then we will move over to March and get busy on that.
Oh, this is the project, Steve, that's the $19,000 for the memorial we approved out of the Parkland Fest fund. Is that the one you're talking about?
Correct. Moving the memorial from the present location over towards the walkway.
And you've got enough money there, funding for the 19K to go ahead and do everything you want to do here with all the bricks?
Yeah, that should buy all the materials.
Okay.
Okay. Very good.
Can we just go back to number 2? I don't know. I know we skipped on to number 3, but can we go back to number 2?
I'm going to come back. I was going to come back. Okay. I'm not done. I just thought, while Steve was talking, just let him stay on.
Okay.
But, so I wanted to hit Martsfield just as the brief, update to that. And then I thought maybe let him just talk about briefly Robinson Lane improvements, because he's talking about floor, and then we can come back to Tim with respect to the other things, then have more full discussion on the parks.
Okay.
On Robinson, just,
Yeah, that picture there, it kind of locked up my computer.
oh,
So out at Robinson Lane, I think I sent you some photos of the current condition of the floor.
Yeah.
And we had spoken previously about this vinyl chip flooring process. It's extremely durable. It's vinyl chips that are bonded in epoxy. And what they do, they will come in and sand the existing concrete smooth with diamond grinders. And then they put down the epoxy and they drop the chips into it, and then it gets another coat of epoxy on top of that. I'm just looking at the proposal I sent you here. The basic renovation would be a total of $5,600. That would cover both restrooms in their entirety. And then for an additional $2,020, they could offer a second wear coat on top of that, which would add traction and durability to the product. The lifespan on this is 15 to 20 years. I feel it's a very worthy investment, but basically maintenance free, and it can be touched up over time if necessary. You wouldn't have to go to a full strip and replace in the future. You could just throw another coat of epoxy and some more chips in place to freshen it up.
and you say, so what you were describing is that extra coat would retard any slipping, would be, especially with our, seniors and people that use it on a wet surface. I'm thinking again about like at the picnic, annual picnic when we have it, and things of that nature.
Exactly. That second coat would add a more slip resistant surface. And, being a restroom, you can expect that the floors at times are going to be wet. And, during rainstorms as well, the moisture gets tracked in. So I do feel that is a worthy option for that as well.
Oh, is this the same stuff you wanted to use for town hall?
Correct. And I'm kind of killing two birds with one stone here. I'll give you a lower cost introduction to this product and improve Robinson Lane at the same time.
So one of the concerns I have, right, and I talked to a couple of folks over at Little League was, people come in with the metal cleats, some of the seniors, is that going to tear this thing up? Because, it's almost more cost effective. And I like the proposal. I think it looks really, really good, but I think that is it more cost effective to go like just an epoxy paint and put that down, make it look a little bit nicer, and it's probably 1/10 of the cost, right? Because this is about $8,000, $9,000 to do this.
Right. Well, I sent you the photos of what we end up with, and honestly, I didn't realize that they were still using steel cleats. I thought those had been banned.
No, they still have metal cleats there. So, we just got to be careful because it'll rip. I'm afraid it would rip that up and then kind of defeat the purpose.
No, it's not going to do it any good. That's for certain. I wasn't aware that was an issue. I thought they had all converted to plastic cleats. Yeah. I don't know. I think maybe we should discuss that portion of it then. I got to talk to the vendor and find out what his input would be on that.
What about those the garage floor sealants? You could put a sand material in them so they're non-slip.
Well, that's basically what this product is.
So you can go to Home Depot for $200.
Well, that's more involved than what you're talking about there. That's the basic homeowner stuff that you're talking about.
Is the concrete foundation, the floor cracked? Is it needing repair? Because I know what you're talking about here, Steve.
At Robinson?
Yeah, because in Town Hall, you were talking about it sanding it down so it also would fill in all the cracks that we're seeing in the floor.
Right, and that price was including all the preparations needed to install the floor there. If there were cracks discovered, they would be filled. and, sand it again in preparation for the process.
Looking at some of your photos here, it looks like, quite honestly, the floor is in pretty good shape with the exception of, the paint peeling and everything else not being paint there. It looks like it's in pretty decent shape. So I don't think you have to do any kind of repairs to the floor itself. Again, I'm just trying to make it look nice, make it safe, but if we can do it for less expensive, again, make it look better than what it does today and for 1/10 of the cost or something. And again, I'm worried about the wear and tear of, you put that down, what happens with the cleats going on there? So again, I don't want to spend 8 or 9.
Well, like I said, I'd like to speak with the vendor about that issue and see what his input is. on that.
The part of it that I have a greater concern about, Al, is related to the sidewalk leading in, and, that's not in good shape, last time I looked at it. And I know that when we have people that have, whether it's walkers, wheelchairs, or others, by the nature of that and the slope on it and so forth, they had a lot of difficulties. So that's an area that I think really does need some attention.
I agree.
Right.
I have a quick question, Steve. Thank you for the info, but have we reached out to other towns or the county and see what they use? And what the longevity is of any product that they've used and been successful?
I haven't done that, no.
Maybe we should look into that. Maybe they have some valuable information we don't know about. Could you let us know,
I can do that.
please? Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for Steve on this topic?
No.
Okay, let's go back to our, parks and what we were talking about, new or replacement equipment in some of the remaining parks. Al, I know you had a comment you wanted to make.
Yes, the one comment I want to make, and I'm getting, some comments from some of the residents, and Steve, I'm sure this is on your list of things to do, but some of the benches, I know the benches are in. I was wondering if it's possible to, as part of the new or even replacement playground equipment, that we get some of those benches installed, as an example, over at Regency or Quiet Acres, et cetera.
Castle Point.
That would be a good thing.
Right, it's on my list of things to do. I've got them in stock. I'm heading over to a company to look at an auger for the excavator to make these jobs go much faster, because we have a lot of post holes to be digging.
Because one of my concern is pretty soon you're gonna, the next month or so, maybe less, you're gonna start doing the mowing and stuff. And, this kind of project might be something, again, that we can get done now before you start into your, really busy season.
Well, the snow has just melted off and the ground is, drying out. And as soon as we can get in there to do this work, that's the plan.
Is there like a timetable, like a couple weeks?
I can't say that they'll all be done in a couple weeks, but we can get a 2 or 3 of them out there.
Okay. Yeah, if you could just get at least the 2 new playgrounds in there that we've had done, that would be great. Thank you.
Castle in one of those.
I'd like to
right?
someone to tell me where you want me to put them, because once they're in, they're in.
Castle Point.
Castle Point really is, we started, I think, a couple years ago talking about it, but it's partly on top of my list that I've seen, and I agree with Al as to the others, but Castle Point's really in tough shape.
They're all important, but if we were to prioritize, I would like to see.
I think, what we've discussed is, each ward and trying to get our basic services for the residents, addressed. So I know Councilman Beal had mentioned to me about interest, whether it's Indian Village or someplace on playground equipment as well, right, Bill?
Yeah, so just looking ahead to potential future playgrounds, there's a couple areas in Ward 1 I would like to explore offline, not right now, but we have some properties that we happen to own that perhaps could be repurposed for a playground. One example would be the former water plant in Indian Village. Right. The other option could be the former water plant in Tall Trees. Sure. So we'll have a conversation about that at some point, since Ward 3 and Ward 4 got their playgrounds. I'm sure that my colleague in Ward 2 perhaps might be looking for one too. So,
well,
thank you.
Bill, you can have one, so you get to choose one, and you get to have the same playground that person I got 3rd and 4th Ward.
I think we want to do more than that, but I think we need to service a couple areas But Bill, to your point, as I was also walking around, such as in Tall Trees, a lot more children, right? And we're seeing them, Angela's seeing them, everybody's seeing them. And I think it's great. It's fantastic. One thing, Angela, that also I was thinking about, because of tremendous amount of traffic, but it's in your ward, that's Carnwath, doesn't even have a playground set.
Yes, and some are saying that there could be a baby boom secondary to COVID-19. I will say I did my part.
You did. You sure did. I don't know if you're going to add any more parts, but certainly you did yours this time.
It's up to the Lord. It's up to the Lord.
That's right. God bless. I think this is something that we can all come together and talk about, maybe at a workshop.
Right. Yeah.
So
But I
you.
wanted to get the discussion going so we can move.
Excuse me.
Steve and his schedule, it's he's
The list.
already strained. The list, is I think after tonight going to 100, Steve. So anyway, it's something we have to address. But seriously, I think it's a good time to look at it, and particularly since we are seeing a lot more use, which is great news. A lot more use of our park. So let's talk about it, and certainly I think for our workshop. How we hold that is a very good point. But I encourage each of you, and the board members, but also Jessica and Steve to be thinking about what might be priorities and where we can use them, right, as we look at extending the program throughout the town.
Angela, Castle Point is very high up on my list.
Yep.
Thank you.
That needs a big facelift.
Oh, and
So-
we'll work to it, and we'll get it done. We will.
Okay, back to Tim, you're on here. Do you have any updates from your perspective with respect to the Challenger League, your facility septic, or also we've had some questions again, which are very legitimate about the big crack out there and in the field, outfield that we need to look at. Do you have any more thoughts on it?
Well, we presented to the board back in the fall for the crack repair at the Challenger Field is $9,800. I think the board actually authorized it. Joe maybe has to go back and double check that.
Right.
But at the time, we were going into fall, early winter, and it was a temperature thing. So now, we're looking at a May potential when the temperature is going to cooperate. So I verified last
idea is
week.
Tim to take a look at this for the $9,800 and the May time period. I think this is something we probably need to either at the next meeting authorize it, or if we have the workshop, that we should move forward on this thing, because again, their season's going to start. It's a safety issue, and I want to make sure that no children get hurt on this, and it's a good price, and come out of Parkland Trust.
But I think we have also the bigger issue is, and I agree, Al. I mean, that's why I wanted to discuss it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we also have the over $300,000 cost for the septic, the bathroom. Part of that is reimbursable through our grant monies, which we need to be working on. But we would still have over $200,000, that needs to go, come up from someplace. So that's an important item that we need to discuss, and be thinking about between now and I think the next board meeting, and whether or not there's some additional, funding when we go to bond, or how we handle that. We need to address this before the season, gets really rolling.
Tim, did you nail down a vendor? Because I know that was one of the, on the restroom facilities. I know that was a big headache, right?
Yeah, we were trying to get a vendor off state bid so we could plug and play the building, but that part didn't work out. So that's probably one reason why the bid prices were a little higher than what our estimate was. And then based on our last board meeting, we reached back out to the low bidder and asked him to hold his price for 60 days, which we did get the sign off from them, I believe Tom said yesterday. So we have until I think April 26th, to enter into contract. So hopefully between now and then we can get a direction and go.
Thank you.
Okay, good.
Okay, thanks. Okay, let's move on. And I asked Barbara, to introduce a concept. We're not, voting or doing anything, but an idea. As we've been looking at how do we, and Tim's been involved with respect to our waterfront areas, and how do we perhaps, think more creatively on, with respect to those, and Chelsea included. We're looking at, and I'll give a briefing at the next meeting with respect to what, and I'm planning actually perhaps to have somebody from EPA to come and speak to us. But Barbara, why don't you review what you were thinking about?
So we've been looking at the waterfront, primarily the Chelsea boat ramp, the Chelsea Marina, and that area that's over the railroad tracks. Right now, that's located in the R40, which is 1 acre residential district, and there's nothing really residential there. Mr. and Mrs. Argemma, who owned the Chelsea Marina, have been looking to sell it for years. And the issue that came up is it lost its use, as a marina is not listed in commercial uses in our code. They came to the ZBA to try to get a use variance, and our attorneys realized that it didn't meet those qualifications. They have since put a letter in asking it to be rezoned so that they can sell it and it can be used as a marina. That being said, it might help the town to rezone that to some sort of waterfront zone, and maybe even look at some pieces along the Wappinger Creek near Reese Park for recreational uses, seeing that our boat ramp is there and that is considered one of our recreation facilities.
And that's as to the Wappinger Creek area, the lower creek. Alex Reese is also very much interested in working with us on, improving that area and increasing, really the access, whether it's kayaking, other boats, from originating there going down to Chelsea. So Barbara and I were talking about this. We've also put in for grant money in the past, and we'll do it again as it opens up for our riverfront, redevelopment, not in the sense of housing or buildings per se, but how to improve the quality of life issues relating to, riverfront. And that also being said, I wanted to, mention that I had some very good discussion, and I've asked them to put together, with our 2 trail wardens, that have been doing it, their ideas. I got to, and I'll send out a summary as soon as I get a chance to write it down, what they are doing, and also some of the ideas going forward. And I told them that also I like them to come and appear before the board to talk about just that itself. So it's all kind of interrelated with respect to our several miles of waterfront along the Hudson up through the lower creek. So that's where these kind of 2 ideas were converging that Barbara and I were talking about.
But keep in mind that there is a petition now that has been delivered asking for this to be rezoned so that this family can sell the marina. So where we've been discussing it as a town project, we now have somebody who is asking specifically to have the front street rezoned.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, that's true. That's true. It's been filed with the town clerk.
Yep. So Barbara, what is the next steps with respect to filing with the town clerk? What does this board have to consider?
So Mr. and Mrs. Argemma are on the line. They did want to speak to you very briefly, just to explain to you why they're looking for this rezone at this time. Amy, are you there?
Yes, Barbara, I'm here. Thank you. And thank you for the introduction. Thank you to the board for letting us speak tonight, for the ZBA board for recommending, that we pursue this. Like Barbara said, we've been trying to sell the property for some time now. It is simply not meant to be, a single family home, and that is its zoning. We've had interested parties in the past that are, looking to revitalize the property, to, bring industry, to, open recreational use here, to have marina use, boats, kayaks, all of that kind of thing. And every time we have an interested party, they hit a roadblock with the zoning, and obviously are nervous to pursue or purchasing a property that isn't zoned for what they want to use it for. And no one wants to live here. Between the boat ramp and the yacht club next door and the train going by, it's just not meant to be, a single family home. So, we're asking hopefully that we can move this forward in the right direction. And, we're able to relocate our family to a true residential community and let someone who is capable of running a marina, bring this property up to its true potential. It's really a very unique piece of property. As Barbara said, there's not even a zoning in the town for its use really right now. So it would be great to see that, not only for ourselves, but I think it would be a great thing for this whole area going forward.
Yeah, thank you, Amy. Jim Horan, what are next steps, that the board needs to consider for this? I know you've done a lot of research and looking at the issues. So what do we need to do next?
So as far as the rezone petition, the two issues are whether the town wants to include other areas along the waterfront to be included in this area or within this zoning district, or limited to this area. I'm just going to share my screen because there is another issue which would be actually, I don't know if anybody can see this, but the area here in blue, so here's the railroad tracks, and to the west of the railroad tracks, all of this right now is in the floodplain. So, that really limits the ability to do residential development in the area, particularly from a septic point of view. There's no municipal sewers. So, you're really stuck with the residential uses that are there. Most of the residential uses that are there predate zoning. The zoning here is not changed. It was established as a single-family residential in 1963 at the time zoning was adopted. In looking at this area, over the years on various different projects, there never really was any residences in this area ever. It was, primarily a waterfront community. It was laid out in the street grid before the railroad tracks came in, which would have been I believe in the 1860s. So, it really has had water related uses. The yacht club is a permitted use in the zone because it is a club. It's actually not permitted because it's a marina. It's permitted because it is a club. The town of Wappinger does not have a marina or any sort of boat launching facility as a permitted use under zoning. It certainly makes sense. This is really the only area in the town that has reasonable access to the river. There are other areas, but they're on the creek, and then the railroad tracks certainly creates a problem as far as riverfront access. So, a marina use is certainly appropriate here. And we can certainly begin drafting a local law to rezone this to some sort of waterfront development, waterfront related uses, marina, kayak launches. Most of the uses would be not so much building related because of the flood zone. If you had, one of the other options would be to permit in the zone a waterfront restaurant or something like that. But again, with the flood zone, you'd probably have a situation where you wouldn't have any habitable space on the first floor. It would have to be, the first floor would have to be elevated off the ground to some level. I believe the flood elevation here is about 8 feet. So, you'd have to basically have the whole first story for a parking use or, something like that. Then you'd have issues with flood shutters and things like that. So, you'd see something like you would typically see in a beachfront community where, you in essence had something up on pilings or something like that, if you were going to do new construction.
Right. Thanks, Jim. Councilwoman Bettina, this is in your ward. Do you have any comments, please?
Yes, it is. And I've lived here for over many years, and I remember when this was a functioning marina. There's a lot of traffic that's there. This is something the town should take advantage of because it would benefit everybody. It needs a lot of work because we have issues with the yacht club and the wall, as we all know, which is going to cost a lot of money to fix. And as far as the floodplain goes, the last big storm we had, I believe the water was all the way up to the yacht club's front door, if not in the front door. So, Jim, I agree with you as far as a commercial restaurant or something would be really very difficult. But it's a beautiful area. It's one of the few areas that the town has access to the river. And there's a lot of use in the summertime. The traffic of the people that go down and launch their boats is phenomenal.
Right.
And it's just increasing. And you're right, unfortunately, we do have the train, and there's not a lot of room for people to wait in line to get their boats launched. So this is going to have to be fairly thought out well.
Okay. But there's no opposition from anyone on the board to looking into this further and taking the next steps, correct?
Not at all.
Okay, good. So we'll work on that, and with getting a combination of Jim and our engineers, and also working with Amy and them. Oh, by the way, Ange, what's the what I used to call the Harbor Masters building? Is that being used for anything by the yacht club?
Somebody lives there.
Somebody lives there.
Yeah, that's there. They live there full time.
Yeah, that's the yacht club. He does.
Right.
There's someone living there full time.
Yeah, and he's been there for years, I
Okay.
think.
At least since we've been here, I believe.
And that's owned, the yacht club building is owned by the yacht club.
Yes,
I think so anyway.
yeah, it is.
And just for the record, I forgot his name, the petitioner's consultant, environmental consultant, had reached out to me earlier or last week, I want to say on Thursday.
Right.
I'm gonna have to give him a call back, but so they have a consultant, who wanted to put together some secret information on this, and I know he had spoken with you, Dick.
Yeah, I had asked him to reach out to you,
So-
with respect to that, and that's Michael Archer, is the person that
Yes.
should have reached out.
So-
to. Yeah.
So, again, it's, not a big lift. I frankly wish there was more land here that the town could utilize.
Right.
I thank you and quite a few other people,
Yeah.
not just now, but over the years.
Yeah.
So anything going forward on this, I'd like to be included in all meetings, please.
Sure.
So
Absolutely.
thank you.
Thank you so
Okay.
much again for considering, and
Okay.
please feel free to
Sure,
reach out
thank
with
you.
any
Thank you
questions.
both.
Thank you.
Okay, see ya. Take care. Thanks. Okay, moving on to our resolutions. The first resolution is Resolution 2021-46. This is a resolution that's popped back up. I don't know if Steve has any other comments, but this is a resolution authorizing the purchase of the lift for buildings and grounds. I don't know if there's any further development, or do we table this another time? Steve?
Yeah, I'd like to request it be tabled once more. I received a list of machines, about a half dozen machines that have become available, as surplus equipment, and I am planning to go over there Wednesday and look at those, and should have something to bring back to you at the next meeting.
Okay, so do I have a motion to table?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, there's motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. The next resolution also want to table because I need to also discuss that next week along with the Recreation Committee, but this is Resolution 2021-58, a resolution adopting charter for Town of Wappinger Senior Resident Affairs Advisory Committee. So I'd like to have someone move that be
I'll
tabled.
move it to table it.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Next item is what we discussed earlier, Resolution 2021-59, resolution adopting protocols to respond to state disaster emergencies involving public health. This is what Bill and Sarah had discussed.
I'll move it.
I'll
Second.
second it.
Okay, motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Motion passed. Thank you. The next item is Resolution 2021-60. This is resolution authorizing budget transfer to pay insurance deductible. Sandra, are you here? Or, Jim, you want to discuss that, Sandra?
Sure. This is with respect to the settlement of the litigation regarding Troy Swain. The town's insurance policy has a $10,000 deductible, which is the extent of the town's liability on the settlement. So the insurance company had presented us with a bill, and this is a resolution to authorize a transfer out of a fund balance to pay the deductible.
Move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. The next item is Resolution 2021-61. This is resolution introducing proposed local law 1 entitled Recreation Policy for Parkland Improvements. Jim, you are the mastermind behind this. We've discussed it somewhat before. Why don't you introduce it?
Sure. So this is the discussion that we had previously regarding making certain changes to the town code regarding the recreation fees and how we establish them. And in New York law, at the time a residential subdivision or a residential site plan is created or approved, the town board, the planning board has the ability to require the reservation of parkland, and if there's not a parkland suitable on the site, it may require the payment of a recreation fee. Currently, the town has a recreation fee of $5,000 per lot and $5,000 per dwelling unit. This is just to get the ball rolling. And what this local law does, the first section establishes the legislative intent of the town, and basically what the legislative intent is that to husband the resources of the town regarding parks is to focus park improvements in centralized park facilities, and that the town board is expressing a legislative policy which should be followed by the planning board, that unless we have a large sized park that is could meet the needs of the town, we would not accept that, and we would instead require a payment of a recreation fee. This language indicates that unless there's 99 contiguous acres of usable parkland on the property, that the planning board should instead require the payment of a recreation fee rather than the dedication of land. Also, what this does is that it says that the planning board, in its discretion, may accept a dedication of land in a circumstance where it would supplement or improve existing park facilities or connections between existing park facilities. In that case, it would be, less than 99 acres. The second part here, and this is something that the board can look at, is to create a list of, here we've got a list of 10 central park facilities which the town would focus the spending of the recreation trust monies on. Airport Drive site, again, this is in alphabetical order. I'm not favoring any particular park, but it's Airport Park Soccer Complex, Conworth Farms, Castle Point, Chelsea Boat Ramp, Martz Field, Reese Park, Robinson Lane, Rockingham, Schlatthouse Park, and Spook Hill. So those, and again, if the board wishes to add or delete something from those, but those are the facilities that, the intent is to focus on the improvements on there and, to enhance the recreation facilities at those particular facilities. In addition, there is and part of the way this would be handled would be that as part of our capital improvement plan, the town board would establish a list of projects for those central park facilities, which would then be, used to allocate the funding from the recreation fees, the Parkland Trust money. Also, in addition to the central park facilities, there would be a list of what would be known as local park facilities. And the intent here is to create a list for each of the wards, as was discussed previously. For example, creating a local park facility at Tall Trees on the abandoned the well site, or someplace in Ward 2 or outside of the central park facilities. So that would be also where the recreation fees would be dedicated to. And then with respect to the nature of this would be during the planning board approval process, there would be a discussion of any kind of preference as to whether or not the fee would be allocated toward a local or central park facility, and the planning board could make a recommendation to the town board with respect to that fee, and the developer as well could express their intent as to where they would wish it to be allocated. Again, it's only a preference. It wouldn't be binding on the town board, but it would be something that would be, expression of intent. One of the good things about that would be this would then focus the planning board on making sure that it addresses the issue of recreation fees. One of the things that happens a lot in the litigation regarding recreation fees is that the applicants frequently argue that there was no discussion of what the recreation fee would be allocated to, how it was computed, or whether or not the statutory tests were met. So here we have a mechanism whereby the planning board would have to make an affirmative discussion of the recreation fee, get it on the record so that, you know, in the future, if there was any issues litigation wise with respect to the recreation fee, it would be clear that the planning board considered the recreation fee with respect to the application. And again, this is on for introduction tonight. You know, clearly there's going to be probably some changes going forward. And as an adjunct to this would be the creation of those priority lists of projects, which would not be in the local law, but they would be adopted by resolution of the town board. And again, updated, you know, annually or from time to time as the board sees fit. So if anybody has any questions, certainly.
I just had one, Jim. It seems like your the law is kind of steering property attached to what we have and or 99 acres plus. And I know, you know, we've had these discussions in the past. We don't want unusable property. I get that. Is there latitude to say if a parcel is being offered that the town would be willing to accept?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. All right.
So this is certainly a, you know, there's certainly a, you know, a possibility, but yeah, I mean, it's not, we can tweak the language to make that even, you know, more specific, but.
It seems like you're also trying to get really specific so there's not a problem after the fact through the planning board, correct?
Yeah, I mean, you know, so this is an issue that gets litigated a lot. And, you know, it gets litigated, one, because, you know, these fees can add up when you have a larger project. And those are the fees where you typically see, those are the cases where you typically see litigation. And, you know, one of the issues that comes up is that, you know, they just, you know, a lot of municipalities just charge a recreation fee, don't really look at the issues, and, you know, comes back after the approval's been in place, and, you know, the developer now comes back, and 9 times out of 10, it comes up in the context of other litigation regarding the project. So I won't say 9 times out of 10, it's probably 50-50. But sometimes the fee is actually charged in and is, you know, challenged in and of itself.
And we've had specific cases, and, you know, Jim and I had to negotiate one because they weren't going to pay. And so we had negotiations to settle the lawsuit, basically, to resolve that issue. So it's very real.
And
This
you know,
tightens up the process. Is that what this does?
Say that again.
This tightens up the process, so there's, you know,
yeah. I mean, the issue in the
basically it's straightforward. This is the way it's going to be, and, you know, there's a little wiggle room here, because I think that's what you're trying to get here too. Because right now it looks like it's kind of not open ended, but there's an ability to, you know, make judgments, et cetera. This kind of tightens it up so that everything kind of falls in place here, so that it's not that there's a right or wrong answer, but it's pretty much that's the way it's going to be.
So the way this statute is written, the way it contemplates the acquisition of land, and that's the way it was originally enacted back in the 50s. And, you know, as you can see, there's a number of small parks, you know, that were part of subdivisions in the 60s throughout the town, that were basically, you know, the worst land on the subdivision, and the town inherited them, be it swamps, be it, you know, trees on the side of a mountain or a steep slope. I mean, and this is not, you know, just to the town of Wappinger. This is, you know, throughout at least the Hudson Valley, and, you know, that I've seen. I've had this issue in a number of municipalities, and what winds up happening is in some municipalities, they were offered for dedication and the town never accepted them. So you have these properties that were floating out there for decades, and some of them went at tax sale. You know, so the original legislation contemplated not the payment of a recreation fee, but actual dedication of the land for recreation purposes to the town. Back in the 80s, early 1980s, the town village of Scarsdale. It's created a local law that would impose a recreation fee in lieu of parkland dedication. And that was challenged, went up to the New York Court of Appeals, and the New York Court of Appeals said that the town of Scarsdale had no authority to do that. The legislature then subsequently amended the town law to specifically provide that a planning board could require the payment of a recreation fee in lieu of dedication of land. If the circumstances, what it said is if there was not suitable land on the plat, on the area to be developed for the recreation purposes. So in order to make a finding to require the payment of a recreation fee, the planning board has to come to make two legal conclusions. The first is that the subdivision will create a demand for recreation, additional recreation in the town, which typically happens in the case of a residential subdivision. So if you were subdividing land for a restaurant and a factory, there would be no recreation fee because it doesn't create a demand. It's limited to residential properties. So that's the first thing, is that there's a demand for recreation, the need for additional recreation facilities. And then the second one is that there's no suitable land on the property. That's all it says. So what this law is doing is, in essence, saying what the definition is for suitable land for recreation purposes. So what we're doing here, what the intent here is to say, we don't want any small parcels of land. We want a large facility that we could use for park purposes. And so we set that forth as that there's a definition here, so that we don't get into the challenge of whether there's suitable improvements. Plus, we also put a methodology in to say we're not buying any new land. We've established priorities, because one of the things that you can specifically use the Parkland Trust for is improvements, capital improvements to existing facilities.
I have a quick question,
Sure.
Jim. Does this have anything to do with age-restricted development?
No.
So this wouldn't apply to that, or it would?
Well, I mean, so.
I mean, if
no,
you have a project that's 55 and over,
right.
and they don't need to have recreation area, or do they?
Yeah, they do. So, I mean, so there's some, question with respect to, over 55, what type of facilities. I've actually worked, for developers on projects where they've put in trail systems, bocce courts, horseshoe pitches, shuffleboard. Okay. So, yeah.
Swimming pool.
So, yeah, swimming pools, yeah. So, okay. And those are, now you get to the other issue regarding over 55 communities where, and this is a separate legal issue, where the developer intends to put recreation facilities on the site for the use of people on that site.
Right.
So that's a different, that's a different calculus. Yep. So if you've got a facility, somebody's going to come in with a project that has a clubhouse, that has, pool, basketball courts, and everything else, arguably that meets the need. So they would not be paying a recreation fee, or, but again, you can look at some issues there. Sometimes they pay a reduced recreation fee because they've got, facilities and amenities on site. That can go both ways, but this is kind of the straight vanilla where they don't have recreation facilities on site.
So Jim, tonight, this resolution is basically scheduling a public hearing,
Correct. My recommendation would be to schedule this for the second meeting in April.
Okay. Any other, comments or questions with respect to it? Bill?
I'll move to introduce.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passes. Thank you, Jim, for the good summary.
Sure.
Hard work on it. I think we're getting a lot closer, especially as we're looking at some potential, further development here. So it's very timely, for that. Okay, the last resolution that we have is Resolution 2021-62. That's the approval of the correspondence log. Have a motion?
I'll move it.
Second.
Second.
Okay, motion second. All in favor?
Just
Aye.
on the question, Mr. Supervisor, I'm seeing in the correspondence log that it's now official that the Italian Center has taken over the Elks Club.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I saw that. Yes.
So that's good news,
Yeah.
that they now will be taking over that operation, and I guess the Elks Club will still operate for the time being as well. So that's good.
Jessica, I know you had some discussion. Any other information on that?
Nothing really new on what the partnership
Right.
between the two organizations
Okay.
will be.
Okay, very good. Thank you. So there's motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. The next item for special consideration, which I had, was to basically discuss, as we mentioned earlier, the reopening of town hall or to the public without appointment and the board workshop, because, they're kind of related in whether or not we have a public meeting that's live, where we're all together, or do we continue to do things this way, based on where the COVID numbers are. So what's the, thinking of the board on this? First, as to reopening of town hall, do we, I had mentioned before the possibility subject to COVID numbers of April the 5th. Is that something we still want to delay a little bit, seeing where this spike is right now, or what's your preference?
What are the thoughts of the department heads?
Well, I think that it's mixed. I think that there's, certainly some concern among some people, and others, feel that, they'd like to see, people coming in. So I think it's a mixed situation with respect to that, Chris.
Yeah.
I'm all for giving it 2 weeks. So let's give another 2 weeks. So we're originally going to open on April 1st, or
Yeah.
5th. Let's just make
Yeah.
it April 12th. Let's give it a couple of weeks just to see how things are going. Not that I want to keep delaying it, because I know residents are
Right.
I
not coming
agree.
to town hall, but COVID I'm worried about.
Me too. I agree. With the spike, unfortunately, and not everybody being vaccinated yet, there's a lot of frustration. I mean, we're doing better than we have, but why take a chance at this point?
We had a polling earlier today of the various towns and villages within the county. Another supervisor had raised that. The majority of them are still, I think more than the majority are still either not open or open only for appointments. I think Fishkill and East Fishkill have a modified program where, and with respect to East Fishkill's, Sarah, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they're open 2 days a week for public to come in, of course, still COVID protocols, 3 days a week by appointment only. And so the bigger ones are tending to do a modified version, but we're already doing it by appointment only. And many of the smaller ones that don't have the capability are still basically closed. Bill, I don't know if you've seen anything different from your observation point.
The only thing I can say is I want to get this town hall open as soon as possible. However, looking at the number trend right now, the number's trending up. So we're at 4.68% on the 7-day rolling positivity average. We really want to try to be south of 4%. That's what we want to try to be, under 4%, before we start opening the doors here to general public. The other side of this is the number of cases in the county has gone up about 100 in the last 3 days, actually 4 days, from 1243 to 1351 since the 18th. We just looked at this earlier today, the supervisor and I.
Right.
So perhaps we should reevaluate this on the 12th of April. We'll have a better picture of what direction things are going in that at that point. Because if we open up April 1st now and these numbers continue to rise, technically we would have to close on an emergency pretense which we don't want to have to do that again, right?
Right.
So I think that we should keep things by appointment only, excuse me, and then we should make a decision on April 12th.
Okay.
I agree. Also, we have Easter coming up, so you're
Right.
gonna have people getting together and, you know, unfortunately, like Bill said, want to keep this down, and we'll have more of an opportunity for people to be vaccinated also.
No.
So I agree with Councilman Casella and Councilman Beal
Thank you.
Okay.
to hold off.
So the consensus then, the unanimous opinion is we'll hold off and revisit this on the 12th, correct?
Correct. And the other side of this, Supervisor, was the workshop meeting that we want to really have in
Yes.
person, right?
Right.
I think we should evaluate where we're at April 12th and then make a decision on when the appropriate time to have a real workshop. You know, we could still social distance, but I want to be able to be together in the same room so that we can actually discuss these things
Yep.
more
agree.
effectively.
I agree. Yeah,
agree.
we discussed earlier, Bill. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's plan it that way, and then we'll revisit this on the 12th. So we'll go into executive session now. The first item, and I apologize, Eric, you know, you've been listening, but you've probably gotten a good education as well. Eric Axelson will be we'll be interviewing him with respect to the open position under Christian, you know, for the Assessment Board of Appeals. You know, you'll recall last time we had, received, Christian had proposed we meet with him. And so he's been very gracious and waiting, you know, through this. So we'll start off with that. Sarah, we'll have
I'm sorry, I hate to interrupt and I apologize. Did we put it out that we were looking for people for Board of Assessment?
I'm not sure if it's went out yet or it's going out, but there's an ad that's going out, I believe, if it hasn't gone out. Yeah.
Okay, can the board be copied on it? when
Sure,
it
yeah,
goes out,
yeah.
Please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll double
Again,
check.
I apologize, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Sure. No problem. And then we'll have some other HR and contract issues, you know, to discuss. And so we'll break and go there, you know, go take a short break, and then we'll meet in there, and Tom will send the notice to us.
Do we need a motion to go to executive session then?
Yes,
I'll
that's
make the motion.
next.
Second.
There's a motion, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed, and we'll meet up shortly.
Okay, great, thank you.